So once our foam has cured, we now have the area directly under our window insulated all the way up to where our backer rod ends outside the glass, but it's not air sealed. And the reason we don't consider this air sealed is because the spray foam itself doesn't bond well to the vinyl and doesn't necessarily bond well to many flashing tapes. So over time, with changes in temperature and humidity and the building just moving on unstable soils, this joint here, this bond between the foam and the window can and likely will crack. So as a last step, we'll trim away any overspray. It's obviously a little bit of a balancing act as far as not making a total mess of the foam. But what we're trying to do is give ourselves an 1/8 of an inch or so space where the foam ends behind our receiving channel for our jam extension. And then what we'll do, I can just look and I can see that I have a little bit of foam here that's still sticking in there. Get that cleared out. That's better. But then what we'll do is we'll just work in a bead of Barabond all the way along here. The idea is you don't want to have so much foam cut out that you have to use a lot of Barabond. You just want to have about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch of bonding surface such that when you're done, and basically I can go from this way, I can just tool that Barabond in there, and the Barabond covers the foam and is bonded to the vinyl and the plywood, at least 1/8, hopefully 1/4 of an inch contact. If there's any Barabond that gets in the receiving channel, hopefully there isn't, but you can just tool that out before it dries. One last thing I'd like to point out is there's all kinds of foam guns. This one's got a plastic nozzle on it. That works okay. In our case, we were able to get into the 4-inch point, no problem. Brass tips are nice on these, replaceable brass tips, because you can clean them with a small drill. In a pinch, Romex, strip the guts out of it, take the wires out until you're left with just the outer jacket. And in many of the foam guns, you can stretch this Romex right over the nozzle, securely tape it with a lot of electrical tape, and then you've got a flexible hose that'll let you get into some tight spots. For instance, if the window's real tight on one side and you may only have 1/4 inch, or you've got to get insulation 4 inches back in there, well, taping this on there and making yourself a flexible way to apply that foam is a pretty good solution. Last step here is to talk about the vapor retarder and how that vapor retarder gets installed and sealed around the windows. You'll notice that when we applied the Barabond, we actually tooled it in the edge and carried it around the plywood joints at the corner. We didn't build it up at all. We just made sure that we had some Barabond sealing each one of the joints. That's going to be important for the next step where we apply the Tremco.